In 300 yards, at the roundabout, continue straight onto London.
Nuria's Sajjad and Salima Lau were celebrating the end of the school term with their friends and parents when a Land Rover driven by Claire Fremantle crashed into them, killing the two 8-year-olds. This morning, she was charged with 2 counts of causing death by dangerous driving and 7 offences of causing serious injury. An initial police investigation ended in 2024, with prosecutors deciding not to charge her.
Maybe it's because I'm not really his son.
Oh, now, Adam, of course.
Maybe it's because I'm gay.
Oh, don't be ridiculous, darling. He got over that a long time ago.
Like I say, I don't know. What I do know is Brian is never going to do right by me. Never has done.
Honestly.
He was an idiot to believe he'd choose me as his successor.
I realise Brian's been behaving oddly recently. It really has got nothing to do with you.
What has it got to do with that? You don't think he's losing his faculties, do you? Alice said you thought he was fine.
No, of course he isn't, but he is very stressed.
About what?
Well, lots of things. Miranda! He was expecting to start a brand new life with her.
So why didn't he? What's stopping him?
Adam...
He could be living with her now.
He couldn't.
Of course he could. Moving back into home farm is all he's ever wanted.
He couldn't leave Rory.
What? Rory? Why does everyone keep mentioning Rory?
Oh, never mind.
No, seriously, what am I missing? He's not a little boy.
You're not missing anything.
Lillian?
Forget I said anything.
No. What is it? What's going on with Rory?
Adam...
Tell me.
Look, all I'm trying to say is that you shouldn't be too hard on Brian. He's not being as callous as he seems.
The Archers was written by Tim Stimpson and the Farming and Countryside advisor is Sybil Ruscoe. It was directed in Birmingham by Mel Ward and the editor is Jeremy Howe. Our drama this afternoon is Thomas Hardy's last novel, the story of the stonemason Jude and his dreams of becoming a scholar. That's coming up next. And then Anita Rani will be here with Weekend Woman's Hour after the news at 4 o'clock.
Turn right onto Wood Lane, A124.
On Weekend Woman's Hour today, Dame Maureen Lipman and celebrating her 80th birthday by performing 8 shows a week.
It's going to be tough, but you think about the actors who made the Ealing comedies. They were all in a show in the evening. They got up at 6 o'clock, they went out to Elstree, they clowned about all day, and then they came back and did, oh darling, anyone for tennis in the evening. So we do, it keeps us young. We keep going until the end of the road. Sian Phillips is on the road, she's 90. We don't want to drop off the twig before the twig falls on us.
Dame Maureen Lipman, and we'll hear more about her joyful new musical, Allegra, in which she acts, sings and dances. That's Weekend Woman's Hour today, just after 4.
BBC News at 3 o'clock. The Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch has called for the government to do more to protect the Jewish community after the Prime Minister suggested some pro-Palestinian marches should be banned. In an interview with the BBC, Sir Keir Starmer said he was concerned about the
Continue for 2
during
miles.
demonstrations and the cumulative effect of them. But Ms Badenoch said the government had been too slow to take action.
I heard the Prime Minister give an interview this morning where he didn't seem to know what to do about it. There are things that we can do. We can ban hate preachers from this country, stop them from coming in. We can remove visas from those people who are not British, who are here spreading hate and anti-Semitism. But we need to do more. Enough with the platitudes. We need action.
The Green Party of England and Wales accused Sir Keir of threatening authoritarian restrictions on peaceful protest. The Lib Dems said all demonstrations must be carefully scrutinised by the police, while Reform UK said the government was taking action far too late. A man has appeared in court charged with attempted murder after a car bomb attack outside a police station on the outskirts of Belfast last week. Kieran Smith was remanded in custody. A device was put into a hijacked car which exploded outside Dunmurry police station. A 19-year-old man is being questioned by police after an alleged bomb hoax led to the evacuation of thousands of people from a Peter Kay gig in Birmingham last night. Officers said no suspicious items were found at the Utilita Arena. NATO has urged European nations to spend more on defence after the Pentagon announced it was pulling 5,000 troops out of Germany. President Trump and the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz have been involved in a growing row over the war in Iran. The former Formula One driver and multiple Paralympic champion Alex Zanardi has died at the age of 59. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said the country had lost a great champion and an extraordinary man, while the International Paralympic Committee described him as a pioneer and a
Star in part 1 of Jude the Obscure, dramatised by Graham White.
Oh, I could make use of him, sell him in parts.
I'd regret that, John. It's a good piano and I'll have need of music at Christminster.
My aunt was a fuel house, sir, and it might be put in there until you find a place to settle in.
Jude Fawley, you are ever fast of thought. Now, as you're here, just help me load these onto the cart.
I will, sir. I hope you'll be happy when you're done, sir.
Here you are. A book to remember me by.
Why do you go, sir?
Well, you know what a university is? And a university degree?
No.
A degree is the necessary mark of learning to progress as I wish. My dream is to be a university graduate and then to be ordained as a minister. Going to live at Christminster will give me a better chance of that.
What is Christminster?
You must know it. It's the shining city across the hills northwards. You can see it from the top of Brown House down. Now, I shan't forget you, Jude. Be a good boy and remember to be kind to birds and read all you can. And if you ever come to Christminster, hunt me out for old time's sake.
Goodbye, Mr. Phillipson.
Jude, come along and help me draw the water now.
Yes, Aunt.
Good day, Mrs. Edlin.
Oh, Miss Fawley. You have gone then, the schoolmaster.
He has, Mrs. Edlin. Considered himself above a little sleepy place like Mary Green. Here, draw up that water, will you young harlequin?
And who's this one?
This is my great nephew, Jude. Jude, say hello.
Hello.
He come from Mellstock since she was last this way, where his father was living and was cooking and died in 2 days. I've got him here to stay with me till we can see what's to be done with him. Just now he's a scaring of birds for Farmer Troughton to earn a penny.
Oh, well, he'll keep you company in your loneliness. And I'll bear with the bacon.
We shall see if he's good for the like or not. He is crazy for books.
I like to read, but I'm not crazy. Oh, he'll answer back, will he?
He will. It runs in our family, rather. His cousin Sue was the same.
Oh, I recall her.
She was like a child of my own.
Lived here with her parents.
Until their marriage broke. Oh, that little maid should no such change ever marry. She doesn't afford these to take that step anymore.
Why not?
Never you mind, just do as I say.
I will do what I please.
You think so? Well, you'll carry that water back and get a breakfast cake and then get to Troughton Field before the morning's gone and his corn with it.
Away! You slept some breakfast.
In 100 yards, turn left
Yes,
onto Gordon
that's
Road.
it. Eat there,
Turn
buddies.
left onto Gordon Road.
So it's 8 dear birdies, is it, young man? I'll tip of your...
Turn left onto Whalebone Grove.
And you won't miss a little.
Won't I, then? Won't I?
18.
The woman is just a
Turn
different
right onto High
view of
Road,
it. Well, I must
A118.
have thought that when I said I would do it. Because here I am, exhausted. There's no tub thumping in this. It's slightly frivolous, but it does make a poignant point that when you try to bring down a person who is eccentric, when you try to make them normal
and others, and they don't have maybe the staffing in place or the facilities, They are terrified of damaging Ofsted.
Continue on A118 for half a mile.
And also, a lot of them are private providers that will have some sort of risk threshold as well, right?
But they can say no. They're not obligated.
They're not obligated, and if the state wanted to obligate providers, it would have to do something like take on sort of shared liability, but not be on site. And I think it's one issue. And I think one thing that's really important is, a lot of these kids, instead of being in the real sort of specialist, really good supported places they're in that might need a 2 or 3 to 1 staffing ratio, they end up in these very, very, very sort of improvised settings. The outcomes for kids in care are pretty awful, as well known. There's a lot of homelessness risk when they age out, they're committing crime or end up with substance issues. They're very unsafe settings sometimes anyway. The idea that the most traumatized or vulnerable, or in a very sympathetic term, challenging cases are in these settings is a great concern.
I mean, it sounds like some of the most vulnerable could be the least supported.
Yeah, in places, yes, because they need the most amount of provision, or they need the sort of most support.
In 300 yards at the roundabout, continue straight onto London Road, A118.
And that, we didn't aim for local elections, but with a whole load of new councillors probably coming in the next few weeks, I think local authorities are going to have to get to the grips with who their good providers are and what their challenges are very, very quickly.
I mentioned a figure at the top. I know it's made headlines as well, that it could cost £30,000 a week to care for a child in an unsuitable setting. How could that be?
I think that, in a way, I'm almost glad at the sort of intense cost, because if councils were doing this to save money, it would be a really insidious development. I think that kind of incredible cost shows that councils just get desperate, and the providers know they can charge what they like, because the council's already now basically acting unlawfully by being willing to place a child there. So it's a 4 to 1 staffing ratio. They're paying for an Airbnb on a nightly rate, and also a provider. Anecdotally, we heard that a provider can basically say, well, this child we think is at risk of self-harm, so we need another staff member, and then they can just add to the cost. And the council is terrified of placement breakdown, because then they're back to square one.
So you would be paying for every person who's involved in taking care of the child.
Paying for the whole thing, and there'll be profit taken home there as well. And 20 grand a week is what, £1 million a year, and that's not unusual. I think the Children's Commissioner Rachel D'Souza has done really, really good data transparency stuff on this the last couple of years. I think in the last one that she did, which was maybe 4 or 5 months ago, I think it was 38 cases were per child per year over £1 million.
Just some more details on that report that she published in January found 669 children were in unregistered home on one day in September 2025 that she pulled out that day and looked at it. Rebecca, let me bring you in here. Were you surprised by what Fraser is saying?
Not at all. We've been sounding the alarm for years. I mean, it's been a perfect storm of increased need. So we've seen
a quarter of a
childhood
mile
mental
at the
health
roundabout, take the
skyrocket,
fourth exit
especially
onto
since the
Waterloo
pandemic.
Road, A125.
We've seen poverty, which we know increases the risk of children going into care. And so we've also seen what we call contextual safeguarding issues. So that's where even if parents are able to fully support children in the home, there are outside factors, organised criminal gangs, child sexual exploitation, digital risks and so on, which means risks are higher. And so within all of this, there's been a real soft touch approach from the government. It beggars belief that there's been no criminal convictions whatsoever in relation to these settings.
Well, when you say soft touch, what do you mean?
What we mean by that is the deterrents are simply not there. Ofsted has sent out warning letters, but only a very small percentage.
Exit the roundabout onto Waterloo Road.
Of those were then responded to. And so, you have these profiteers who are essentially making a mockery
in
of
a quarter
local
of a mile
authorities. They
at the
have
roundabout,
the monopoly,
take the third exit onto Ron Valley Way, A125.
We do have a number of statements in relation to this. An Ofsted spokesperson said too many children are being placed in unlawful settings where they're at risk of harm. The use of placements must stop. Ofsted is working hard to investigate unregistered children's homes and compel them to either register or close. Another from the Local Government Association that I want to read. It says, no council wants to place a child in an unregistered setting. However, a lack of appropriate homes means that provision is sometimes not meeting the children's needs. The rising cost of placements also means that less funding is available for earlier support for children and families. Councils need sufficient long-term funding to invest into family help, child protection, child in care and care leaver services, while greater financial oversight of the largest providers is also needed to ensure that profits are invested into supporting children. Now, there's a lot in those two statements, but I suppose one thing strikes me, and I'd be curious for your thoughts on this, Rebecca. There's a difficult choice if today a child with complex needs presents and there is no provider willing to take in that child in a registered setting or an Ofsted regulated placement. The child has to go somewhere, or else, what is it? Leave them to fend for themselves?
I think that's a really well-worn argument, and of course directors of children's services are in really difficult situations, but ultimately so are the children who need those settings. And I'm speaking as someone with lived experience of a setting like this, and I can't tell you how
Exit the roundabout onto
those
Wrong
can
Valley
be. I
Way.
think it's really easy
In
for
a
leaders
quarter of a
to,
mile, use the middle
sit
lane
on
to
the
turn
high
left
horse
onto
and give
Romeo
these
Corner,
platitudes, but
A124.
ultimately there needs to be investing in homegrown provision that really meets those children's needs. I think a lot of the time when we hear horrific stories like these, people kind of turn the other way and think, oh, that's the care sector, it's expected. But if we were to think about children of the same age and compare it to the education sector, it would be unthinkable that society would allow teenagers in high school to be taught by teachers with criminal convictions, to be taught in a classroom with other unsafe adults, to be taught outside in a caravan with no checks. Of course, that would be horrific, but because it's care, that there is that lack of care.
Tell me a little bit more, if you are able, about your own experience, if you're comfortable.
I'm more than happy doing this, and
Use
I think
the middle lane
part of
to
the
turn
reason
left
is because
onto
it's
Romeo
so hidden and
Corner,
out of sight. I'm happy to
A124.
bring that to light and make this less of a statistic. So I was placed in a hostel which was in the red light district of a very poor town up north with not a lot of kind of support for children and young people at all. There were about 30 residents between the ages of 16 and 25. So, already you have girls who are in year 11 with men in their mid-20s who have just come out of prison who themselves are vulnerable. The very first thing that anyone said to me when I walked into the hostel was, if you want any green, you know where I am. So, meaning if you want
in 300
drugs,
yards,
I'm down the
use the
corridor.
right two
So,
lanes to turn
within
right
minutes,
onto Romeo
as a
Lake,
young person
A124.
offered drugs. I was once in hospital for 4 days, seriously unwell, before any staff member even realised that I was gone. And that would just be unthinkable in a children's home that's regulated or foster placement. The other thing I will quickly say is I remember doing my A-levels in the dark because, there's no money to top up the electric meter, which again, it's Victorian, isn't it?
And thank you for sharing that. And so
use the right two lanes to turn right onto Romeo Link, A124, then slide left onto Upper Raynham Road.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, the Children's Commissioner has admitted this herself. There's a transparency problem here, not least because, as Rebecca alluded to, there's a lot of nervousness in local authorities
Slide left onto Upper
to
Raynham Road,
report that they are effectively acting
A125.
unlawfully. So one thing we're asking for is real transparency on it, maybe even over a sort of focused period of time.
Is it an amnesty you're looking for?
No, an amnesty is a mandatory
Continue
reporting
on
of every local
A125
authority
for 2
and what they have
miles.
to do and how long the placement lasts and why it happened. There, in the report, are some recommendations about the procurement of care, especially in exceptional circumstances, not having to go through the sequence of getting a paper trail that shows that normal children's homes have rejected you when you know that this special case will require you to go and look for something a little bit more expensive but legal. Sort of building out this shortage of specialist capacity as well, really important. And I think one last recommendation, just because of what's coming next week, is that local candidates get to grips with this really, really quickly, know what the pressures are in their own borough, know what good providers they have, and work with them to increase capacity.
Messages coming in on this. I work for an out-of-hours social work team, weekends and evenings. This report very accurately reflects reality. Sometimes the care staff can't speak English, the food is all takeaways, there's no activities and educational facilities. Truly, it's a scandalous situation. I've been a social worker for 35 years. The costs are frequently $10,000 a week, and it's appalling care, often in caravans and nasty hotels. I was struck, Fraser, and I don't know whether your recommendations gets into this, but some of the statements I was reading there are for-profit private companies involved in care.
Oh, yeah.
But that is surprising to some.
Yeah, well, they adult social care as well, they dominate the sector. I mean, some of the biggest owners of care homes in this country, adult and child, are private equity. So, you know.
Does your report get into that? Or
we've not, and I've not done enough, I think, to say that there's no place for that. But I think one thing that does need to happen is councils can't be subject to just private provision like this. They need to build out some of their own facilities, develop that institutional knowledge on how to do that.
Before we go, Rebecca, a last word.
I would say the advocacy is a huge part here. Lots of children and young people are led into these settings and maybe fed the myth that, you're finally going to be independent, and not given any instruction as to what the reality is, that they're going to have to fend for themselves 3 meals a day, who they're going to be live with, what support they will miss out up until the age of 25 if they're not granted, care status. So we really need to be giving children information and empowering them. And the other thing that I would say is that we really need a crackdown on profiteering. It's absolutely not acceptable that in this day and age venture capitalists are profiting off vulnerable children.
And I don't obviously have a response from any of those involved in that particular aspect. Thank you I want to actually read one more statement. This is from the Children's Minister, Josh McAllister, who said, running an unregistered children's home is illegal and wrong. Anyone running a children's home or supported accommodation must be registered with Ofsted or face serious consequences. We're cracking down on the scourge of illegal homes through new laws that give Ofsted the power to issue unlimited fines and shut down illegal homes.
Nuala was speaking to Fraser McLean from the charity Commonweal Housing and Rebecca Pierre, Deputy Director of the charity Article 39. Still to come on the programme, the underappreciated sound of female birdsong, just in time for International Dawn Chorus Day. And remember that you can enjoy Woman's Hour any hour of the day. If you can't join us live at 10 a.m. during the week, all you need to do is subscribe to the daily podcast. It's free via BBC Sounds. Now, how's this for an acceptance speech?
Give thanks and remember, if you can believe it, you can conceive it. Believe the hype. Manifestation is real. Look at me. Daddy! I want a master!
That was Simone Pennant, MBE, founder and CEO of the TV Collective, accepting the 2026 BAFTA Television Craft Special Award at this year's glittering ceremony. It was awarded in recognition of her outstanding contribution to championing diversity within the screen industries. When she joined me in the Woman's Hour studio, I started by asking her if she could believe what had happened.
It's truly amazing. I'm absolutely shocked. It wasn't something that I was expecting or even looking for, actually, to be fair.
Well, it's well deserved. But let's find out. Let's tell people why this is.
How they're portrayed, whether they have agency in their stories. I'm not being able to tell their stories on their own terms, and also just in terms of career progression, it's always difficult. So I worked in TV before starting the TV Collective, and I worked on a lot of black programs, which was great, but I found that nobody would call me for just lovely programs, or not even lovely programs, but like come dine with me, or anything else that was outside of that kind of black social issues kind of stuff. It starts to get really frustrated, and you feel really marginalized. Sometimes when you're in the spaces, the assumption is that you're there because you're on some special screen or scheme, or you've got some special dispensation to be there, and never been taken on your own terms. So it's like I have something to offer this industry. So
what does that do to you when you're working in an industry and you're kind of only being picked for certain jobs?
You start to really, it's your sense of self, right? Do you know what I mean? That noise that you're just not good
enough. In 300 yards at Newton's Corner, take the first exit onto Raynham Road, A125.
You're wondering, are people judging me? Am I good enough? I remember working and I'm So you would work, and at 5 o'clock, I've got to go and get my children, man. I've got to go and pick up nurseries and stuff but you're worried if I leave early, does it make me look bad? So you sit there doing nothing, but your computer up, waiting for muscular dystrophy. He's about 6'3". He had muscular dystrophy. And there was an assumption that he was a basketball player or that he was really strong or strapping, when actually the opposite was quite true. And just understanding that I had worked on a lot of black programs to that time, and that in some way I might have reinforced some of those stereotypes. Felt really uncomfortable. And I wanted to be in a space where actually all types of stories should have
in a quarter of a mile, turn right onto Phillip Road.
Different, and actually I don't want to be judged. I don't want to go into a space, and actually my life chances is dependent on the colour of my skin because of a story that you've heard on TV. I didn't want to be a part of that, so I definitely want to give agency and ensure that stories and representation happens fairly and openly, and like, God, who knew that so many years on I'd be still sat here doing it and receiving a BAFTA.
See, I know, well done. It's really important. And you create a collective, you created a community.
Yeah, community is really important, I think, and one of the things where we've noticed that community is important is every Friday what we tend to do is we kind of highlight or spotlight
turn right onto Phillip Road.
Something amazing. And it doesn't even have to be amazing. They might have just got a job promotion, or they might have got a new commission, or they might have landed a project. We do this thing called Friday Flowers, and
I like the sound of this. So what happens on Friday Flowers?
Well, so we give flowers, we say
in a quarter of a mile, turn right onto New Road, A1306.
You're all about giving people the confidence, and honestly, your BAFTA speech, really, that was an empowering moment as well. Also, you looked fantastic, by the way. And you do that because you're empowering people to take up space in the creative industries, but you've also talked about your saboteur voice, the voice that tells you that you're no good. Tell us about that voice and how big a problem it is and what you can do about it.
Well, it's funny because the last couple of days, everybody's told me I look fat. Why am I so fat? Do you know what I mean? Why did I sound like that? Why do I look so angry? Saboteurs.
It runs in our family, rather. His cousin Sue was the same. Oh, I recall her. She was like a child.